Okay, thanks for being here. This is a pretty exciting day. I kind of feel like it's game day for me. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I was nervous, I woke up, I was thinking about it. It's been a long time since I played a game, so kind of close to my game day. Also, it's the first time I've really presented since my thesis defense, so if I stumble on a few words, cut me a little bit of slack. This is a learning process for me as well. Today, one of the things that I feel I do really well, and what coaches kind of emphasize that I do really well, is just creating a culture and a mentality about the way you do certain things. And by certain things, I mean not just training, I mean going to class, going to sleep, the way you eat, creating a championship mentality. And the things that I feel like influence that are passion. It's passion driven and it's influence dependent. If you don't have passion, you're not driving it with passion, it's not going to matter. If you don't have influence, it's not going to matter how much passion you have. There's my name, a little bit about me. The more funny things you can get after your name, supposedly you're more important that way. The basic outline for this is I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between men and women and their brains. It's pretty crazy when you go and look at it. If I were to sit here and tell you men and women are different, you go, duh, dude, I know that. But I'm going to try to explain to you really physiologically why it's that way, and that when certain situations occur and men and women respond in different ways, the reason that actually happens. From there, we're going to kind of go into the motivation behind that, how you can go through motivating male athletes and motivating female athletes, and using the different types of motivation based on now what we know they respond to based on the way that their brains actually work. And then the last two parts are really the funnest parts for me. That's the passion aspect of it and the influence aspect of it. And we'll kind of dive into those. And in the very end, I'll just kind of talk about what we do here as a strength and conditioning staff and how we've been able to implement that for us as a staff and influence our athletes to perform. So first, me, who am I? Who is this guy? I was raised in Elgin, Texas. It's a little small town. It's 30 minutes east of Austin. I'm a sports junkie. I played almost every sport in high school. The only ones I didn't really play were were basketball and baseball, and it tends to be the ones that I coach the most now, so it's kind of funny. But I played football, I ran track, cross country, tennis, soccer. I did it all. I was blessed enough to start kicking when I was a freshman in high school, got a little bit of a knack for it, went on to play at Northwestern State and then Midwestern State, and was blessed enough to have won 2 conference championships while I played as well, one with Northwestern State in 2004 and then one with Midwestern State in 2009. Along with playing a bunch of sports, I've had a lot of success doing it. And to this day, I still actively do a lot of different things. I played ultimate frisbee with our guys the other day. I'm a sponsored racquetball player. I play in a men's league here in Corpus for soccer. I really don't know how not to do stuff. So I'm always doing something. Sometimes I just got to slow down, but I don't really know how. College football, that was me. Got my bachelor's and master's from Midwestern State. When I transferred, I ended up losing a lot of hours. Kind of set me back, thinking, what am I going to do? My bachelor's was just in applied arts and sciences. And then through academic advising, they were like, well, why don't you just take 12 hours of summer school and then you can start a master's program. And I was like, dude, I can't do a master's program. I'm from Elgin. What are you talking about? And so in doing that, I started my master's program my senior year of football and was able to finish out exercise physiology, wrote a thesis, a lot of things I never thought I would have done coming from a small town. So, it just kind of speaks to the mindset that if you take the mindset that you can accomplish almost anything you put your mind to, it is somewhat feasible and you're put in the right situations. I've worked in the private setting as well. I trained at the smallest places in YMCA in Victoria, Texas, all the way up to this place called the Downtown Club at the Met, which houses a bunch of athletes. The Houston Rockets would go practice there. There would be professional tennis players around all the time. CEOs, I trained a gentleman who's worth over $320-something million, and you would have never known the difference between if he was sitting in his chair or not. So the reason I bring that up is, we hit these different connotations of the way people were raised and the type of people that they are based on their monetary value, and that's not necessarily the value of their heart and the value of them as a person, and that kind of helped open my eyes in being that setting. I played a little bit of pro indoor football. I chased a dream around for almost 5 or 6 years. Got pretty close to making a CFL team, a UFL team. I got to kick in Lucas Oil Stadium. I've been to the Seattle Seahawks practice facility and trained there. So I got to do a lot of really cool things through sport that I never would have got to experience. And so I have no regrets in the fact that I chased that dream and I got as close as I did. And then the last part, who I'm really influenced by, Ryan Sidzik, he's a director of sports performance at the University of Stanford. He oversees their football strength conditioning program right now, and if you watch a little bit of college football, they're doing pretty dang good, and they got a chance, if a couple things fall the right way, they can make it into the college football playoff. Frank Bourgeois, you probably never heard of this guy. He was basically the first real strength coach at Midwestern State. They'd had a couple guys there that had assistant football coach and then strength coach on the back part of it, but they weren't really strength coach. This was the first guy. He basically volunteered his life to the weight room, got a new weight room, changed the culture of Midwestern State to be performance-based, to be basically just excellence-based, and I was able to work as a graduate assistant under him. He comes from the Gale Hatch system, which is from LSU, the Baton Rouge area, all the Olympic weightlifting stuff. So that's kind of where I got started. Then obviously Coach Richard Burnett, being able to meet him, I guess over 2 years ago, and speaking at a Texas clinic, and the way that he thought about things and the importance of really training with purpose and being cognizant of your body and the way that you do things, and then his passion to continue to get better as a strength coach has really fired me up. And the last part is, I'm a Christian. I consider myself blessed to be in the position that I am, given the opportunities I've been given, and I'm very humble in that state. So here we go, talking about the brain. I got some funny little titles. Men are from Mars. Right, so we've all heard this statement before. Many studies have been done to try and explain the differences between men and women. We've read different ones, and we all know, like I said, if I said men and women are different, you'd go, yeah, I know. But there's actually four areas in which they differ just in pertaining to the brain. So we're just going to talk about the brain and men and women, okay? Processing. The first area is processing. Males' brains utilize nearly 7 times more gray matter for activity, while female brains utilize nearly 10 times the matter. What does that really mean? It's kind of the way that we interact. So males, when we start to do something, we get tunnel vision, we got this one thing, and we tend to block out almost everything else that's around us because we've got to get this one thing done. Where women, on the other hand, are action-oriented. They can do this one thing, but they know they got to get this other thing done, so they'll do that, and they can go right into this next thing. It really pertains to the way that our brains localize specific activity and the information is processed. So the action processing centers, specific splotches in specific area of the brain is the way and the reason that this occurs when we're talking about the difference between gray and white matter. The white matter, women are from Venus, white matter is the networking grid that connects the brain's gray matter and other processing centers with one another. So what does that really mean? This profound brain processing difference is probably the reason you may notice that girls tend to do more quickly transition between tasks than boys do. So we were just talking about the tunnel vision and the multitasking. Whenever you give a male a specific object to do, he's going to do it until it's completely done. He's going to try to get it done and not worry about anything else. Where female will get that done and then worry about the other things as while she's doing that one thing to make sure that the other things are going to get done as well. So it's just the way that you kind of do it. I can give the example between my softball and baseball teams and the way that they train in the weight room. My softball team, if you've seen, we put up a couple of videos actually on either strength and conditioning. They're like little machines. They literally need almost zero coaching. I tell them exactly what they do, and they know how to do it, and they go from this to this to this to this to this to this to this. And if something's messed up, they go, what happened? I'm supposed to do this and this and this. Sorry guys, that's my bad. I'll fix it because you knew you were trying to do exactly what I told you to do. Where baseball is, hey, they'll come in, hey guys, we're going to really get after today. It's going to be heavyweight. Okay, let's go, coach. And they forget about everything else. A bad thing that happened, we were about to max. Luckily, the guy wasn't injured. He's going to go do a little quick single at 405. They just done 225. Guy throws on 2 plates on one side, clips it. He tells the other guy to do it. He doesn't do it. I'm on the other side of the weight room watching a guy that's about to do a max. He picks the bar up because he's so excited. The bar pops. This is how strong this kid is. I don't even know how he did this. He catches the side with 4 plates like this. Instead of just letting go, pulls it all the way back up and then racks the bar back. And then I go, everybody's freaking out with what happened. Oh, so-and-so tonight, hey, Hill, you okay? Yeah, I'm a shoulder block. He ended up being fine. He came back the next day and back squatted like 475. So he ended up being fine, But that's just an example of, oh, I'm ready to go to work, to not thinking about all the other things that are going on in play. So I kind of had a little bit of a teaching moment. Gentlemen, we've got to pay attention to detail. And that is a statement that I've used over and over and over again when I'm talking to my male teams. Attention to detail. We cannot go so focused on the outcome or what we're trying to achieve and forget about all the little things that go into it. So there's just an example of that when we're talking about the brains. Next, the formula behind us. So this is when we're talking about the actual chemistry of our brains. The differences here, male and female brains process the same neurochemicals, but they do it to different degrees and through gender-specific body-brain connections. So what this is talking about is these specific neurochemicals. Serotonin, which helps us sit still. Testosterone, I'm really low on the serotonin, obviously. The testosterone one, sex and aggression. Estrogen, female growth and reproductive. And then oxytocin, which is the bonding relationship one. Males are generally, slow down. Males are usually have more of the testosterone, so they're more physically aggressive, and they lack less of the serotonin and the oxytocin, so they don't bond as well, and they tend to be aggressive, and that's how they respond to specific things. They don't like to sit still very much. They want to go do something. Sitting in a chair kind of kills you. You want to be active, those type of things. Where females, it's a little bit different. They bond more. They're more likely to bond, and they're less likely to be worried about all the other stuff that's going on. So more of there's your nurturing type aspect when you're talking about females from the chemistry makeup. So a takeaway, boys at times need to have different strategies for stress release than girls. What I'm speaking to here is that when a guy gets pissed off, one of the first things he wants to do is punch a hole through the wall. When a woman gets pissed off, the first thing she wants to do is call her best friend and talk about it and figure out why I feel this way. When a guy just wants it to go away. So sometimes we have to stop our male athletes. Hey, calm down. What the heck's really going on? When we're females, we have to stop ourselves. Hey, what's going on? And then we have to tell them, okay, let's move on, right? Sometimes, so there's different ways in which you can handle those specific instances. You just have to be cognizant of what's going on within that specific person. And that's where it differs from males to females. The building blocks, this is speaking to the structural differences of the brain, the makeup of the brain. This refers to the actual parts of the brain and the way that they're built, including their size. Right to left, females have more verbal centers, which basically means they talk more, because they have more verbal centers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We all know this. I'm not saying anything that we don't know. Please don't take any offense to that. But the fact is that they talk more. They have a larger hippocampus and a human memory center. So women tend to input and absorb more sensorial and emotive information. Sensorial meaning the information to and from all five senses. So that means that when a woman experiences something, she really experiences all of it, whether it's smell, taste, hearing, thought, whatever it is, she takes all of it into account, and she can recall that specific instance with all of those senses, where the guy might really remember that car was really fast. I don't remember what it smelled like or what the color of it was. That some bitch could run. Like, that's all we really remember. So that's the differences in the way that we experience things in different situations. But that's based on our structural differences. That's just kind of how we're made. So when you're dealing with women tend to be more aware of their surroundings and gather and retain more information. So since we know this, you have to take into account when I'm coaching, when you're coaching a female team, that they're going to remember everything that happened to that specific instance, the way you treated so-and-so, or what you said, or maybe what you were wearing, or why you didn't come over and talk to them when they did a good job. You have to take that into account, where a male might not have thought about all those things, and you have to remind him, this is why this has happened, because you did X, Y, and Z, because he had no clue that he even did it. Does that make sense? Okay, sorry, I know that this part's a little bit boring. And then the river runs through it. This is when we're talking about the actual blood flow and brain activity. Women have a higher degree of blood flow and a concentration part to this cingulate gyrus. I said it a couple times and I just messed it up. Will often ruminate on and revisit emotional memories more than the male brain. So this is going back to that memory thing. They remember more stuff. They have more blood flow to the gray area, which is the bonding aspect, the bonding part of the brain. And so since they remember that stuff, they have more memories there. They're gonna revert back to those memories. Males tend to often reflect more briefly on an emotive memory and then analyze it somewhat and then move on to the next task. They also may tend to change course or do something completely different. So maybe we can't, if a male sometimes will work on something, we can't figure it out, we will drop it and just go to the next thing, because I'm not messing with this thing because it's not doing what I need it to do, so I got to move on to the next task, which sometimes can be thought of as like we actually didn't care about the task, but that wasn't it. We just couldn't figure it out, so we needed to go get something else done because we got to keep moving. We can't sit still on this one thing. So it all kind of comes together when you start really looking at the way that our brains work. So the takeaway here is that women may take longer to analyze and accept to move on from a situation, where men may have to be prompted to actually analyze the situation. So, when we're going back to it, sometimes if you're training a female athlete, maybe we're talking about a max, she'll dwell and dwell and dwell. I couldn't get that. I had to talk to a softball player who, for some reason, she cleaned all year long, had done a good job, go to max, she grabs the bar, and she would pull it all the way to here and literally would not drop one on the bar. She couldn't do it. We talked about this, talked about that. Couldn't get her to do it. At the end of it, she ended up benching. She did a good job. I talked to her afterwards and I said, I wouldn't want to use her name, but I said, so I don't think that this is just a weight room problem. I think this is something that occurs on a regular basis, is you get afraid to fail at certain things. And when you get afraid to fail at certain things, whether it's this or it's academics or it's on the field, that you're scared to even try it because you're more worried about the outcome as opposed to actually going through the process. And she just kind of looked at me and was like, I just hit a giant light bulb. But I knew that was kind of going on. But that was just because I knew her personality. I had watched the things that she had did. But that was a conversation I felt she needed to hear. Now maybe that will help her to go on and become an even better softball player. I don't care that she comes in and cleans more weight, but can she go and perform better now because she has more confidence in herself and actually going through the process of training. And then men, sometimes if they fail at something, I have to actually stop them and make them think about why they failed and what we can do to make them do better the next time. Because we have a tendency to just try harder and think that fixes the problem, and it doesn't. Because if you don't know what the problem is, you can't fix it. So sometimes you have to slow everything down and make them actually analyze themselves. Last part here. Okay, this is just the way that I look at it. So taking all of that into account, taking our brain into account and the way that it really functions, and we know that we're really different. We can't train men and women the exact same. We have to take into account that we're different and we have to be motivated differently. So males are more inclined to be intrinsically motivated when compared to other males. And females are more often influenced when goals are set for the team versus themselves. Males, so I'll give a quick example of this. We had a guy who's kind of, he's my pride and joy, I guess to say. He's kind of the department's pride and joy. He's a freak athlete. He was already crazy strong. But he came in and he cleaned from a box or from a hang, basically 360 pounds. He's a baseball athlete. He barely weighs about 200 pounds, 198, 196 pounds, about 200 pounds. He cleaned 360. The most he'd ever done, he had done 335 before that. So he was already really crazy strong. Went through the program, and I wasn't even really going to push him because I already know he's crazy strong. He's going to be our starting center fielder, and I don't want the guy to get hurt. If you want to go for it, you can go for it, but I'm not going to make you. You feel good? Yeah, I feel good, coach. Let's roll. He should have had 375, to be honest. He kills 360. We're all pumped up for him. Finishes it. We're sitting outside. Not 5 minutes later, he looks over to Coach Rich and he goes, Coach Rich, when are you going to update this leaderboard? Because he wanted to be the man. He wanted everyone to know he was the man and he had just dominated that movement. He didn't care what his teammates thought. He didn't care what anybody else thought. He wanted everybody to know that was me and I did a really, really good job. And he's not a cocky guy. You talk real soft-spoken. He's going to do exactly what he's supposed to do. But when he accomplished that feat, he wanted to know, hey, that was me. Whereas my softball player, I had a softball player who came in. She went, I think it was maybe like a 40 or 45 pound increase. I don't know. It was something stupid. I don't even know how these kids got this strong. Just they worked their butts off. Softball pitcher, she back squatted 240, and the first thing that happened was her teammates were texting the group text. So proud of Steph. She did such a good job. Oh, thanks, ladies. And it was all about the team aspect of it. So I mean, it was like, and I started looking at this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that literally just happened. Like that's really how they function and how they think. And so it's just an example of maybe sometimes the way that we can motivate our males versus females is using a leaderboard for the males and then team goals for a female. Saying that if, as a team we've got X amount of percentage stronger, or we got this much faster, and having the males go, hey, we got so-and-so doing this much weight, and you're doing this much weight, you can't pull more weight than that? So then they kind of, it's that pride, it's that testosterone thing, I can do that. And that's kind of how the difference is in the way that we might motivate our athletes, male to female. And now, then the last part there, obviously that's important. I say that there's always exceptions for both males or females. There's a lot of females that, especially elite level athletes or females that might be the best on the team, that are very intrinsically motivated, and they're really good, and they want you to know they're really, really good because they worked really, really hard, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem occurs whenever we don't realize that and don't coddle or cultivate the good parts of that. So you have to make sure that X is, you're motivating X this way and you're motivating Y this way. They can't be both motivated the exact same way. Now I'm ready. Okay, the types of motivation. Intrinsic means that the individual's motivational stimuli may be coming from within. So this is an example of that would be, I want to be the best I can be. This is, I don't really care what anybody else thinks. I know that I want to be the best I can possibly be. And after that, I don't really care what happens because I want to be the best I can be. An extrinsic example would be, this is when an individual's motivation comes from the outside. Said, I need to play great so that I can get drafted. So they're thinking like, it's not, it's more about something that they can get versus something that they're doing on their own. So it's not, you've heard and seen athletes that are pushed by their parents, and they're really, really good at their sport, but they hate it. And they don't want to do it anymore, but they're really good at it, so they're externally motivated. Well, I got to do it for my dad, or I got to do it for my mom, or I got to do it so I can get a scholarship. This is what I'm speaking to when we're talking about this. So the last part is the way that we can motivate them. So you want to win or what? Key is that we analyze the type of athlete that we're dealing with. We can't just coach and train and motivate an athlete, every athlete, the exact same way. You got to get in there and figure out exactly what each athlete needs to know and what you need to know about them so that you can motivate them the correct way. Devise a strategy to reach this athlete in a hopes that they become the best that he or she can be. At the end of the day, you want to make it, you don't want to make it about them, about you, about anything. You want to make it about them being the absolute best they can be and having the best experience that they could possibly have. He said, so sometimes you can use the examples of how good do you want to be. That's when we're talking about an athlete that can be intrinsically motivated. Hey, you came here, you're a Division I athlete, you got all this. Now, is this as good as you want to get? Don't you want to be better than this? Or you're junior varsity, you want to make varsity? Or did your brother was so-and-so? That's the way that you might use that. And then how good can you be for us? You might have the star player. Coach, I'm really good, man. I don't need to do anything else. Yeah, but we need you. The team needs you. Without you being bought in completely, we're not as good as we can possibly be. It doesn't really matter if you go out and you rush for 250 yards. It doesn't really matter, if you get 6 pancakes, but you let 3 guys go and you give a sack up because now we're backed up again and we end up losing the game because of that. You have to make them understand those things. And this is one thing that I believe: selfless actions lead to championships. And just to speak to that, the season just came to an end last night, but is a historic season here on the island for the volleyball team. They basically went 31-5 overall. They lost 0 conference games throughout the regular season, or they lost 1 set in the conference championship, and they went up the road and played the big brother A&M. We should have won the second set. We lost 25-27 and ended up getting swept in 3 games. But to come from the middle of nowhere, Corpus, with nobody, thinking we could do anything, to go on 31-5 is unbelievable. But that's just a testament to these ladies. If you ever watch them play, if you would ever watch them train, it was never about one specific individual. It was never about Ivy. It was never about Morgan. It was never about Kelsey. It was never about anybody. It was about them. They enjoyed the process of it. They were a family, and they bought into to being great together. They bought into being great together, and it took a lot of selfless acts to lead up to that. Some of them had to sacrifice different things along the way so that they could all be successful together. And I think that's the only way that you can truly get a team to really be as successful as possible, if you can get them all to do selfless acts. Okay, now I gotta get out of this for just a second. Dana talked about this guy. I think he's awesome. I don't even know how to turn this up. Just kind of listen. We'll listen to Ray Lewis talk real quick.
Look, man. Look. Sometimes you gotta say things just what they are. Just what they are. Passion is free. Nobody can charge you for passion. Nobody can tell you what passion looks like. Because that's all about you. Effort is isolated. The reason why effort is isolated, because nobody can dictate it. Effort, but it's 100% in the mind.
100% in the mind. Who believes that? Who thinks that he kind of hit the nail on the head? I mean, when I first heard that, my first thought was, there's not a lot of things in this world that are really free to start with, and he kind of hit it on the head. There's nothing that can dictate your passion for something. It's all intrinsic, and then the amount of effort that you give, no matter how often a coach tells you I need 100% effort, it's completely dictated upon what you want to give, and only you or the player knows how much effort is really being given and what a true 100% actually is. When Dana was talking about the 80%, 90%, 110%, only that person, specific person, knows exactly what 100% is. So going forward, what is passion? We're going to talk a little bit about passion now. A strong feeling or enthusiasm or excitement for something or about doing something. I really like these quotes when I picked them up. Nelson Mandela says, "There's no passion to be found playing small and is settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of." I'm going to read it one more time. It says, "There's no passion to be found in playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living." I thought that was huge because I find more often than not myself, and even maybe as university, as you can get as global as you want and you can get as local as you want, but sometimes we find ourselves just settling for what's easy and settling for doing less than we necessarily should because we just get by. It's just enough. And Nelson Mandela is basically saying, like, why would you want to lead that type of life when there's so much more out there for you? You're so much more capable of living so much more. And then Vince Lombardi here, who is, probably one of the greatest motivators ever. The difference between a successful person and a lack of and others is not the lack of strength, not a lack of knowledge, but rather a lack of will. It just that goes back to that old term, how bad do you want it, type mentality. It doesn't necessarily always have to be the most successful person or the strongest person or the person that knows the most. It's the person that's literally going to die trying to be as successful as possible. So where does it start? Where does passion start? For me, this is kind of where I start to indict myself and everyone in the room. To me, it's ask the tough questions. Check yourself. There's a lot of times we go through this life and we forget to actually stop and think about why we're actually doing something and what's the purpose behind it. We just get going in this continuous rut of I wake up at this time, I go do this, then I finish that, then I come home and I eat that every now and then I go back to bed. And we forget that, we kind of dictate the way our life can go based on the way that we perceive it. And then when we go and we ask our kids to do certain things and they're looking at us and they see no passion. They see us, boop, boop. Like, why are they going to try that much harder when you're over there not giving a crap? So sometimes you got to check yourself. And that's one thing that I always try to do with myself is make sure that, am I giving my kids everything I possibly got every time I step on that floor? When I interact with any of my kids, when I have a conversation with them, am I completely engaged? Do I really care about what they're telling me? Because if I don't care about what they're telling me, they dang sure don't care what I'm telling them. How can I have these expectations for these young athletes if I'm not having the expectations for myself? Do I really care? We just talked about that. And if they don't care, do I? Does the way that they respond to me affect the way that I do my job? Even though it seems like they're like, no matter what I say or how I do it, I can't get this kid to buy in. Am I letting it affect the way that I continue to try and coach them? Or do I throw in the towel and just go, well, he's lost or she's lost. She doesn't care. It's over. What's the point? Are athletes, students, people bettered by me? Have you ever stopped and actually looked around and figured out, like, when I come in contact with individuals, when I come in contact with these kids, with these athletes, do they leave my presence going, that was a really nice person, or I really learned something from them, or I might give them a call or send them an email. They really bettered my life today. Was it a positive experience, or do they walk away going, oh my God, I hope I never see him again, right? And if not, why? Like, what is it about me that that makes people not gravitate towards me? What is it about me that every time I come in contact with somebody or I talk to an athlete, I can't get them to do absolutely anything that I want them to do? What is it about me that's doing that? And then am I really making a difference? I mean, that's one of the hardest questions to ask. If you weren't in the room, if you didn't show up to work that day and they got to substitute, would anybody know that you weren't there? Would it really matter if you weren't there? Or do you bring something to the table that nobody else can bring? Do you do something that nobody else can do because you're individually that much different than everybody else in the world, that you're the only person that can do what you do where you do it? And do you have passion? It's a really simple question, and I think it's one that if we can ask on a daily basis, continue to check ourselves, it's a way that we can continue to do our job at a very, very high level. Living for it. This comes from a book, and I'll get to the bottom of the book. So this is the it factor. So passion, we're going to control. You can make it whatever you want, but we're going to prepare for it. So this is being focused on a goal and not on the distractions. Whatever it is, whatever you can put it on anything, I'm preparing for this specific thing. I want this to happen, and this is how I'm going to make this happen. I'm not going to worry about all the other things that seem to happen to me. I'm going to make sure that this happens because I'm focused on this one specific thing. I feel for it. This is just talking about our bodies. Am I consuming fuel or am I just eating? Now we can talk about our athletes. We can talk about ourselves. Am I literally just trying to get something in my mouth so that I don't die? Or am I making sure that I get the correct food in my body so that I can feel the best I can possibly be, so that when I wake up at 4:45 in the morning, I can bring it? Train for it. Am I keeping my body healthy? I mean, most of the people in this room, we're not trying to make a team. We're not trying to be professional athletes. Maybe some of you are. A lot of that's probably go by the wayside. But there's specific things that we need to be able to do. And a lot of us talk to, and we're talking to athletes, or we're talking about people moving. Are we moving with a purpose? Or am I just doing something to do it? I talk whenever we're talking to our athletes or to our clients or to our students or whatever it is, we're making them move with purpose because they are trying to accomplish some sort of goal. I want to be able to walk better. I don't want my knee to hurt anymore. I want to be able to score more goals. I want to be able to catch more touchdowns. So there's a purpose behind the way that we make them move. Now, am I moving the same way? Do I want to make sure that I can do those specific things? Do I still want to be able to get up and play racquetball at an extremely high level? Do I want to be able to go out and play ultimate frisbee with kids that are 10 years younger than me and still dominate them? Yes, I do. So those are things that we have to take into account. And then the last part is, do we rest for it? I know this one here, speaking to the room. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir. So, this is just something that you've got to be cognizant of. The only way I ended up making through the semester was Coach Rich, and we didn't go upstairs, but there's a massage table. It's got a little thing on it. There's a foam roller, and I would take about a 15, 20-minute cat nap right before I go to class. Because I'd come in at 4:45, I'd train a softball team, a baseball team. Sometimes I'd have to pop all the way over to Momentum and train a soccer team, and then come back over here and teach a class at 9 o'clock. And all that happened before a lot of people ever woke up. And so there was times that I needed to lay my head down for 15 minutes to get my mind right to where I could still function the rest of the day. So there's got to be, obviously, there's things that you have to get done that are going to dictate your time, but you also have to dictate, I need time to rest, not just catch a few Z's. I need to go to sleep and I need to rest. There's got to be time for your body to shut down, decompress, and be able to come back that much stronger. Because what tends to happen is we start to function at about 75, 80%, and we think that's 100%, and we've lost 20% of our capability of doing things that we could do that much better, but we didn't even realize it because we're working on less than we ever had. And I got all this stuff it's a book called Every Day is Game Day. It's by Mark Verstegen. It's really good. I actually haven't read the whole thing. I kind of only read the first chapter because this is what I needed. But he's an extremely intelligent individual, and he goes into all this stuff. In the book, he goes through the actual nutrition plan for it. He goes through different training protocols and through different rest strategies for everything. And the last part, how do I find it? So this is continue to talk about the passion. Evaluate what we do. Evaluate why you do what you do. Instead of just doing it, why do you do it? What's the purpose behind it? I always talk about when I'm training my athletes and whenever we're doing something, there's a purpose behind every specific movement that I ask them to do. And there's a reason that I ask them to do it in a specific way. It's not just because I said it, it's because that if they do it this specific way, we will get X amount of outcome. There's a process that it's going to lead to. And thank God, so far I've been correct, because I've been able to do it, and I've been able to go, see, I told you to do this 4 weeks ago. Now you're still not getting deep enough in your squat, and I can't give you this max because I told you to do this a long time ago. I had that conversation with a softball player because she was doing X, Y, and Z. I can only tell them to do it so many times. I coached them. She'd do it when I was watching. She wouldn't. Then she came and she didn't hit the number that she wanted to hit, and she thought it was okay. And I go, Bella, here, I shouldn't use your name. I said, here's the problem with that. I'm not disappointed because you didn't hit a number. I'm disappointed because you didn't follow the process. I'm disappointed because I asked you to do this 3.5 weeks ago and start working on this and doing it on your own and doing it regularly, and you didn't do it, and this is the outcome that we got. Because I know you're that much better than this. Nobody thought you'd be able to do any of this stuff, and you're here and you're blowing people away, but you could be that much better. You're selling yourself short. That's something that she needed to hear, because in her mind, she'd never really trained that hard. She'd never really thought about it. And I don't know that anyone had ever really held her accountable, because when she was in Kingsville, which is because I coached her in Kingsville, she did those things. And then when she came here, she was a different person. She had lost a lot of that stuff. So she's one of those people that had to be constantly held to a sense of accountability. Renew the vision. Find out why you started doing it in the first place. There's a reason you're in the position that you're in, and you're doing the things that you're doing. You need to figure out, why did I even want to wake up at 5 a.m. and coach a bunch of kids that don't like me? Like, sometimes you've got to think about, what it is that got you into it. And then once you renew that passion, now you renew that vision, you can have a new passion for it. And what it might do is reinvigorate the entire program and get those kids to buy into it. With your new vision, now you can take that vision and implement it into your program. Create an attack plan. Once you find that vision, find a way that you're going to achieve it, right? We talked about prepare for it, set that goal, and create an attack plan. Don't just say, I want to do it. Say, this is how I'm going to accomplish this. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and it will lead to this. Next, what makes you wake up each day? This is one thing I like to say with my women's basketball team. We'll get a little bit. What makes you wake up each day? What is it about getting up every day and going to work on time, or going to train that client, that makes you do it? We've talked about it already. And this is just a way of looking at things for me. I have enough, or I'll never have enough. And then I like to say, all I have is all I need. There's always a perspective of mindset. So you can either be the glass half empty, glass half full. You've all heard that before. When we were playing ball, we said, all we got is all we need. We're talking about our team. We didn't need anybody else. We had put the work in. Now this is me every day. I don't have a whole lot, but what I have is all I need. I don't need more than what I got. When that time comes that I'm given more, then that's what I'll need. But right now, I don't need any more than what I've got. Now, the last part here is we're going to talk a little bit about influence. I'm almost done. Maybe I shouldn't be. No, I think I'm on time. Now, will they listen? Influence. The capacity to have an effect on character development or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. To me, this is the make or break of almost any person in leadership role. If you don't have influence, you can have as much passion as possible as you possibly want. You can have everything that you need, but if you don't have the influence to implement that passion, you're going to have a hard road. It's going to be extremely difficult. This is awesome. This guy.
Do it. Do it. Think of one something. Okay? Come on, do it. Lay it out right here. Do it. Do it. Okay? Do it. Do it.
All right.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Bacardi and Cola. Do it. Do it.
Okay. I'll be right back.
I play that because we used to be in the age, and we were in the age of the do it. Why do you do it? Because I said so. And that was kind of, that age of do it is dead and gone. You can't just tell a kid anymore, do it. Why? Do it. Because I said to do it. No, they're going to look at you like, yeah, okay, dude, whatever. Like, I'm not going to listen to you just because you said me to do something. That time's dead and gone. I don't know why my clicker's not working. Why? We're in the generation of why. If you ever tried to teach anyone anything, you have heard this question. Why? Because I told you to do it. No. Why? Okay, here's why. The age of information. These kids now, they've got, not even kids, us, we've got access to almost anything instantly all the time. So there's a ton of information out there. Half the time they think that, half the time they've already read some little article off of Men's Health, or they looked at bodybuilding.com, where they saw a really cool YouTube video, and that's the best way that you're supposed to train them, and you don't know anything because they've got all this information. They're also the instant gratification. Hey coach, my bench hasn't went up, and we've been working out for a week now. Yeah, I know we've only been working out for a week. Yeah, but I'm not any stronger. Dude, it takes more than a week. No, I read this article. No, you didn't. Shut up. Look, here's the process. You gotta go. Then you go into the physiology of it. You explain to them, hey, the adaptations can occur the neuromuscular adaptations can occur in about 2 to 3 weeks, and you blah blah blah. You start to. Okay, I got it, coach. Thanks. All right, I'm gonna get stronger. Yeah, I promise you're gonna get stronger. Okay, I'll keep working. Thank you. So there's instant gratification that doesn't necessarily occur. I got this, coach. The guy that knows it all. Okay, we've all had this person, or they say, you ask them to do something. Okay, I got it, coach. I got you. And they go do it the exact opposite of what you just told them to do it. Or you teach them it, and then they go do it. I got it. Okay, and they go do it again because they think they know it all. This is once again where you have to break it down and explain to them why you want it done the way that you want it done. And I deserve this. This is the I've worked so hard to get here. I don't need to do anything else. You owe me this. It's the participation trophy. It's all of those things that have seeped into athletics that really have no place in athletics in the first place. There's winners and there's losers. Not everybody's the greatest player. So not everybody gets to play. I've had these conversations with my athletes as well, because yes, I want every one of my athletes to get as strong, as fast as possible. I want every one of my athletes to play. Will they? No. I just coached 45 baseball guys. I won't see 10 of them in the spring. It's that simple. That's the nature of the game. Not everybody's cut out for this. Sometimes that has to be said to these athletes. Just because you work really hard and you think that you did a really good job, sorry, you know what? God didn't bless you with the ability of X, Y, and Z. And he worked pretty hard too, and he's pretty damn good. So you're going to sit over here. That's just how it is. Sometimes it's hard for them to grasp that. But if you get them to grasp that, and then you tell them, but you continue to work and you push X, Y, and Z, you could be that person. Or if you don't push them, they're not going to be as good as they are. And guess what? At the end of the year, you get a ring that looks exactly the same as his. So, that's kind of how we go. And that's the entitled generation. And the last part, this is not an all bad thing. To me, I think this is actually a great time to coach, because this is something that we can cultivate. To me, if a kid is if they're asking questions, that means they care. If they don't, they probably don't care, because they always want to know why. They're always wondering what's going on. So if they're asking the questions, you should be able to answer them. If you don't answer them, don't lie. Tell them you'll find the answer. Tell them you'll find the answer. You don't have to have all the answers to all the questions. I got a lot of kids that come and ask me a lot of different questions because they read a certain article, or they saw a certain YouTube video, or they think they know what's going on. And at the end of the day, I'm not exactly sure what they're talking about, so I'll tell them, I'm not exactly sure you're talking about, but I'll go figure it out for you, and I'll come tell you later. This is who we are. This is talking about program stuff. No, I lost my thing here. Yeah, there it is. Set the standard. This is something that I had to do when I was in Kingsville. I came in there. There had been a strength coach per se, but it was in disarray. When I went and visited before I took the job, I walked through the weight room and there was junk everywhere. Nothing was put up. Kids were doing whatever the heck they wanted to do. They had access to the music. Anything was being played, they wanted to be played. There was no standard. There was no discipline. I had to go in there and set the standard and trust the process. So this is going about, you have to trust that what the goal that you set, the passion that you have for it, the vision that you have implemented, that you're going to trust it all the way through. You're going to trust that what you're doing is the right thing. Nothing or no one is above the name on the building. I had to say this a bunch of times. No matter how good me and coach become, or how successful the women's volleyball team is, yeah, they'll be remembered. But it'll be the team. It'll be the name of the team. It won't be one player. It won't be Coach Scott. It won't be Coach Rich's strength and conditioning clinic. It's always going to be Texas A&M Corpus, sports performance clinic. That's always going to be the name of it. We're just a part of it. So to get kids to understand this, to get athletes to understand that they are just a part of something, not the something, is extremely important. There's always exceptions based on certain situations, but the name will still always be there long after we're gone. And you have to be the standard. I have to be the standard. If I'm going to hold my athletes to a specific standard, if I'm going to ask my athletes to do certain things, I've got to be able to say, I done it, I did it, or I know what you're going through. Maybe you didn't have the same experiences. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you can't, deadlift 500. I'm not nearly as strong as these monsters that come up here and talk before me. But I know the feeling of working my butt off. I know the feeling of I'm about to pass out from running. I know the feeling of not being as successful as I wanted to be. I know the feeling of defeat after I kicked an onside kick that we should have gotten. We lost by 3 points. I know those feelings when it all comes to an end. And you have to be able to sympathize and understand that these kids are going through a lot of stuff. But I'm the standard, and I'm not going to hang my head about any of those things. I'm going to continue to hold myself to an extremely high standard. Therefore, when I look you in the eye, you better be doing the exact same thing. And you can't lead if you won't sacrifice as well. There's a lot of times that, I've woken up, or I've come up here on a Sunday, or I've been extremely tired, or part of me has said, man, they can do it without me, or they don't really need to train this week, or it's not that big a deal if so-and-so doesn't come get this in. And then the other 90% of me goes, what the heck are you thinking, man? Get your butt up there and go to work. And that's exactly what I do. So if you're not going to sacrifice for the greater good, then by all means, you can't ask your kids to do the same as well, because they're sacrificing a lot as well, whether they're going to class, they're going to extra practices, they're coming in and they're lifting, or whatever it is that they're going on in life. Maybe so-and-so has passed away, so-and-so got really sick, somebody's probably got cancer in their family. There's something going on that you may not know about, and so if you're not, they're probably sacrificing, you need to be sacrificing as well. Can you hear me now? Communication is a must. When we're talking about the influence, it's talking about talking with people. You've got to get to know who you're coaching. You've got to talk to them. They have to be able to trust you. An athlete that knows that you have their back will trust your decisions as a coach. If I go and ask one of my kids to do something, but they don't think that I have their best interest at heart, they don't trust me, they're probably not going to buy into the fact of what I'm asking them to do, especially if it's something extremely difficult or something that makes them very uncomfortable doing. They're not going to trust me in asking them to do that. So I have to get to know them. You have to build a relationship. It's easier to coach when you know who you're coaching. It's easier to coach when you know who you're coaching. There's many times we set these standards, we set these goals. A kid shows up late, or a kid doesn't show up for a lift, and the first part of me, the disciplinarian of me, wants to rip the kid, up one side and down the other. Hey, you know the standard. You know what you're supposed to be doing. This is why it's done this way. We've done this whole time. The other part of me stops and thinks, okay, let me just go ask this kid what's going on. Hey, what happened? Why are you so-and-so late? What's doing this? And I've found almost 100% of the time, I never get lied to. If it was, coach, I was just late, I messed up. Okay, let's go, get them hot. Coach, here's what's going on, man. I called home. So-and-so just got in a really bad wreck. I'm kind of busted up right now. Wow. Okay, you would have never known that was going on if you wouldn't have went up and asked the question of what's going on. Does that make sense? As opposed to just being reactive to the situation. And I found that happen many, many times. Now, say for instance, you do that, the kid lies straight to your face, you catch him later and he'll pay for it. But you've got to be able to build that relationship. To me, that's an influence thing. If you have influence upon their life, they trust you as a coach, they know you respect them, they're going to respect you as well. They don't care what you know until they know that you care. If they feel like you don't really care about them, or that you don't really have their best interest at heart, they don't really care how smart you are or what you're doing. This took a lot longer than I thought it was. Proof is in the pudding. Here we go, talking about ourselves a little bit here. When I got to Kingsville, it was up downs for everybody. I didn't believe in running. I don't think running as a punishment is extremely intelligent either. It's a means of becoming a better athlete. So what did I do? An up down, a burpee, whatever you want to call it. And I had a guy ask me, Coach, what does this do? Why does this make us better? It doesn't. It doesn't make us better, but you should show up on time. You should have the right shoes on. You should have the right shirt on. You should rack your weights. But this is why we're doing it, because you didn't do these certain things right. It's not a great story, but the football team was in complete disarray. We wouldn't do certain things. Got it. We were doing a really, really good job. I was a stickler on making sure that you looked at your numbers. You're supposed to have the right weight on the bar. Check this kid 3 or 4 times. He wouldn't put the right weight on the bar. I said, if it happens one more time, we're going to stop and up down for the rest of the period. Still didn't fix it, so I up down an entire football group for 45 minutes straight. And one guy almost quit, and I told him to get the hell out of the weight room. because they did not respect the standard that had been set. And by the end of it, guys were telling him to leave or to do it the right way because they now respected the process. You can bet the next football group that came in there, they were standing like this, ready to do the dynamic warm-up. Everybody was checking everybody else's weight. Everybody was talking. Everybody was doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing because they knew that the name on the building was bigger than them. That the way that I had told them to do things, the way we were going to do things with excellence, with a system, with a purpose for excellence, that was what was most important, and they did it after that. And that wasn't just football. I did it to cross country. I did it to volleyball. I did it to basketball. I didn't care if you were a male or a female. I didn't care what sports you played because you were going to respect the weight room. You were going to respect the process. And once they all got that, things went pretty smooth. When we got there, baseball never won a conference championship, had one off season with them. I was just blessed to be able to be a part of this. They had a lot of seniors. We got a lot stronger, did really well, won a conference championship. Track went fourth in the nation, won a conference championship. After I trained them through the rest of their off season, I left and came here in January. Baseball went on to win another conference championship back to back. And then the women's track team went and won the national championship in the 4x4. So there was something that changed. I'm not saying it was all me, but I think it was a way that they prepared themselves, a standard that they held themselves to, and I think that it allowed them to be more successful than they ever thought they could be. I don't think I had everything to do with it, but they definitely changed the way in which they approach things. Thursday, every day, we believe it here. On my women's soccer team, they talk about being united. We use keywords here to kind of get our teams fired up and things that are ready to do. So I always break it out with the united women's soccer team. Never made the conference tournament. We finished fifth, I believe, fifth in the conference. Went up there. We should have won. It was a really awful, terrible game in Central Arkansas. I think we only lost one game here at home. I had a historic year for women's soccer. The program's only 3.5, 4 years old. So, we're talking about an extremely young program. There was no standard that was set. Came in. This is the way we do things, ladies. We're not gonna succumb to any other thing, and we're gonna do it with a purpose and with excellence. And they bought into it. They stayed united. They became very successful. Women's basketball team, we're on a 3 or 4 game winning streak now. They've done a really good job of talking about keywords here. They didn't like training weights. They didn't like what they did in the weight room. They just never bought into the weight room. And it wasn't, I don't know, we don't know what the issue of it was, but I had to get them to believe in the process of training and training for a purpose and get in there and make it fun and make it exciting and let them see that getting stronger is going to make me a better player. And now when we break it down, we used to do this, I stole it from football, all my stuff's from football. We break it down, we clap, we go tick, tick, and then they all do boom. So it's kind of fun. They do it right before they finish. Softball, I just call them my machines, man. When we talk about a process, it's unbelievable. They do, we talked about the warm-up that they do, the way that they do it. You literally could sit back and not have to coach it. But there was, about that time that you start to think that, there's our last training day, it's a Friday, they trained great all up to that time, we're gonna come back, we're gonna max. I checked that, it was the Monday before Thanksgiving, we're gonna come back, we're gonna max voluntarily. Ladies have done a great job, proud of you. And we start going through the motions on our cleans. It looked really awful. I got pissed off and I said, ladies, this is piss poor. This is really, really bad. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the last day. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I'm tired of this. They had a long semester. Maybe they're thinking about tests or whatever it was. I held them accountable right in that instant. It instantly went back to the way it was supposed to be. We had a phenomenal lift. They crushed weight. They did weight they'd never done before on cleans. They went heavier on squats. They pushed themselves. But just about the time that you want to get comfortable, you've got to make sure that everybody's doing everything it's supposed to be. So just because you have a perfect, or you think that you have the perfect team, it's not. Everything can be coached at any time. Somebody's doing something wrong. It can always be influenced by you. In baseball, I'm so proud of these guys. Coach, I was blessed to take over a program that had already been, the standard had already been set. I didn't need to set a standard with baseball. Coach Rich had coached them phenomenally for the last 3.5, 4 years. They were already crazy strong. I mean, like I said, we got guys that I just really didn't need to mess up. And so we came in and we went through our training process this fall. But one thing that I want to implement into them was attention to detail and doing it with a purpose. And I said, I put a picture of a lion on their thing. And I said, hunter, be hunted. You're either a hunter or you're the hunted. I said, I'm looking for a bunch of hunters. If you're not hunting, you can get out. So I tried to break some kids, and I made sure that they bought all in. And I tell you what, we didn't train like a baseball team. We trained like athletes. We trained like every time we came in there, we were trying to move as much weight as possible. I couldn't give these guys enough to do, and it was really, really exciting. That's our standard, the 4 I's. I'll go through this quickly. We do this to hold ourselves accountable. It's a way to set a baseline and analyze the process in which we train and develop our athletes, and to continue to assess our ability to make a difference in our athletes' lives. Our 4 I's are inspiration, ability to motivate, encourage, challenge an athlete to complete their assigned training tasks, break down mental barriers, and increase physical performance. Intelligence, having a high level of competence to prepare, design, program, and implement training. Initiative, combining awareness, premeditation, work ethic, vision into every action within the scope of given responsibilities. Maximize training quality outcomes while always taking department rules, regulations, reputation into account. And then the influence, this is one of our eyes because we believe it's extremely important. This is the culminating effect that a coach has on the student athlete, sports, or team as a whole. This emphasis should always be to maximize relationships and the results using the highest coaching effort and ability. If you see influence, relationships, maximizing those, we believe firmly in that. This is the way that we hold ourselves accountable as a strength and conditioning staff. And tying it all together, you make the difference daily. I make the difference daily. Think twice before you speak, because your words have influence that will plant the seed of either success or failure in the mind of another. Napoleon Hill. And the last one here, never underestimate the power of dreams and the influence of the human spirit. We're all the same in this notion. The potential for greatness lives within each one of us. You don't know who you're coaching. You don't know who you're coaching. You don't know. Maybe they're not the elite athlete, but they might be the next congressman. They might be the next mayor. They might be the next teacher. You might influence them to go influence hundreds of other lives. Make sure that you are doing this correctly, because you don't know who you're coaching. And lastly, this was me on Halloween. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you. I want a special thanks to the kinesiology department, all of our sponsors. Make sure you check out the bars and all the NSCA and the life fitness stuff. On the strength and conditioning staff, I'm going to take just a second. I know I'm going to finish. The guys in the green shirts we don't talk enough about them. They're phenomenal. They do an amazing job for us on a daily basis. They do it all for free. Me and Coach get more than we need, and these guys do it all for free. They show up early, they stay late, and they do all the little tasks that we don't have time to do, or sometimes we don't feel like doing, so we ask them to do it. And it's a testament to their work ethic and the way that they go about doing their things. And then also to all the speakers for showing up. You know, our first clinic, man, we couldn't do this without having guys that are more important than myself, like Mr. Koster and Dan LaDuca and Dr. Melrose. And then also Dad Bod over there, Poppy Rich, thanks to him. And then also my parents and also my savior. So guys, appreciate it. Thank you so much.